Well, good evening, friends. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers and would like to thank them for inviting me to deliver a talk in this forum. Well, I bring greetings from my hospital. This is Yashoda Hospital, about 300-bedded hospital in Ghaziabad. Well, in the next 15-20 minutes, what I am going to speak is on the topic of secondary diabetes. Well, what is that? If we take the definition, the secondary diabetes is other form of diabetes, which includes the diabetes or glucose intolerance that develops in association with disorders or factors other than type 1, type 2 or GDM. Well, if we go by this definition and we see the etiological classification, we can see that on two extremes of this chart there are type 1 diabetes and type 2, and the bottom is gestational diabetes. In between there is a long list of the causes which can cause secondary diabetes. Broadly, if we divide these groups, one is the exocrine pancreas, where pancreatic tissue itself is the cause, whether it is removed, or pancreatectomy, where 50% of the pancreas is removed, or there is infection in the pancreas causing pancreatitis, which can lead to secondary diabetes, or there is some malignancy in the pancreas which can cause it. So we can combine this as the cause of the pancreas itself. The other group is among the endocrinopathies which can give rise to secondary diabetes. The third, as my previous speaker Dr. Tejas Shah from Mumbai have already explained about the drug-induced diabetes, and of course fourth is a large group of genetic disorders which can lead to secondary diabetes. Well, if we go by these four groups, we will be able to see what the actual picture of secondary diabetes is. Well, as far as the prevalence of secondary diabetes is concerned, the prevalence is around 1 to 2%, and the extent of glucose intolerance, it varies whether the over diabetes is manifested or there is a mild impaired glucose intolerance or there are minimal abnormal glucose tolerance. That depends upon the extent of beta cells involved or regeneration of the beta cells or the action of remaining alpha cells releasing the glucagon. These balance in all these factors that leads to the development of clinical or over diabetes. Another complexity is that the underlying coexisting predisposition to primary diabetes may also be masked because of these illnesses which are present in a patient. So the clinical pulse about secondary diabetes is that the net metabolic outcome in these patients depends upon the direct or indirect impact of underlying disorder on insulin secretion or insulin sensitivity and or unmasking of the genetic diabetes. So all these factors determine whether the clinical evident diabetes will be there in a patient with comorbid conditions. Well, as I told you that the causes can be divided in four groups: the pancreatic disorders, endocrinopathies, drugs, as well as genetic syndromes. Let us go one by one. For pancreatic disorders, there may be a removal of the part of the pancreas, there may be an infection or pancreatic malignancy, there may be malnutrition related diabetes, and there may be an iron deposition in the pancreas itself, like in hemochromatosis. Well, when diabetes is secondary to pancreatic disorders, particularly when beta cell mass is greatly reduced, as in either in malignancy or whenever there is a surgical removal of the pancreas, the diabetes is due to chemical agents or toxic to the beta cells, the clinical over diabetes with or without ketoacidosis will often result depending upon the extent of beta cell loss. It's very obvious. Well, this graph shows in the patient who there were volunteers, 28 healthy volunteers, human donors, who underwent 50% removal of the pancreas. But only 25%, that is only 7 out of 28, they developed glucose intolerance, and thus it proves that the extent of beta cell loss required for the development of fasting hyperglycemia is always debatable. In one patient, it may present as overt clinical diabetes. In other, it may be only a minimal impaired glucose tolerance. Well, the removal of the pancreas occurs in the patient when they develop diabetes, mainly which patients are there who develop diabetes. It all depends upon the rate of regeneration of the beta cells, the nutritional status due to weight loss, concomitant exocrine insufficiency, or glucagon deficiency due to loss of alpha cells also. So all these factors, they interplay to give rise to our diabetes. Well, if we go for the infections of the pancreas, the infection of the pancreas accounts for less than 1% of the diabetes in Western countries, but in Asian or South India, the incidence of pancreatitis leading to over diabetes is quite high, to the tune of around 10 to 15%. And less than 30 years of the young patients, they develop more often the diabetes, over diabetes, if the infection is there in the pancreas. In acute cases of the pancreatitis, there is only transient hyperglycemia, and the chronic diabetes does not develop in majority of the patients, but in chronic pancreatitis, the incidence of diabetes, it increases over time. The prevalence rate is around 40 to 50% if chronic pancreatitis is there for a longer period of time, and 25 to 30% have impaired glucose tolerance, as well as 90% patients with fibrocalcific pancreatitis have got over diabetes. So in chronic pancreatitis, the development of clinical diabetes is more common in comparison to acute pancreatitis. The pathogenesis is more likely due to compromised blood flow to the islets from the fibrotic scarring of the exocrine pancreas, and thus patients with diabetes secondary to chronic pancreatitis may have delayed recovery from hypoglycemia also, because alpha cells are also damaged, and thus the release counter-regulatory hormones, the level of counter-regulatory hormones is also much less. The other category which involves the pancreas causing secondary diabetes is more malnutrition related diabetes, and this is called as J-type diabetes. The features of Jamaican or J-type diabetes are that the onset is at the younger age, the resistance to ketosis, and there is a relatively large insulin requirement and lean body habit of the patients. WHO has identified two main subgroups of J diabetes, two main subgroups of malnutrition related diabetes. One is J diabetes, which is because of the protein deficient pancreas, and the other is fibrocalculous pancreatic diabetes, and the pathogenesis for these is mainly because protein deficiency might render the beta cells susceptible to damage by toxic, viral or autoimmune factors. The last part of the pancreatic disorders causing diabetes is hemochromatosis. As we all know that hemochromatosis, it's an autosomal recessive disorder About 70% of the patients have antigen HLA-A3. Iron deposition primarily in parenchymal cells of liver, pancreas, adrenal, myocardium and the skeletal tissue occurs. The classic triad with which hemochromatosis presents is hepatomegaly, diabetes and skin pigmentation, and thus it has been labeled as bronze diabetes, not frequently observed these days due to early diagnosis and the treatment. And the common presenting symptoms of these patients is about with hepatomegaly or abdominal pain, arthralgia or fatigue. The symptoms mainly correlate with the severity of iron accumulation with the presence of cirrhosis. So, in hemochromatosis, if we see the large population, large patients of hemochromatosis, we find that impaired glucose tolerance occurs in about 75 to 80% of the patients, and about 50 to 60% have over diabetes among the hemochromatosis. Well, the other main group of causing secondary diabetes is endocrinopathies. Among the endocrinopathies, 4 hormones are very important to cause it. One is the growth hormone causing acromegaly. The other is glucocorticoids excess causing Cushing syndrome, catecholamine excess causing FeO, and 4th is thyroid hormone abnormality causing hyperthyroidism. Apart from that, there are other less common forms of endocrinopathies leading to development of secondary diabetes. So when diabetes is secondary to endocrinopathies leading to counter-regulatory hormone production, over diabetes or ketoacidosis is unusual, as mainly owing to the compensatory response of the normal beta cells which become hyperactive and thus counter-regulating the effect of the damaged beta cells. These hormones mainly act either on beta cells, causing damage of the beta cells and thus decreasing the level of the insulins, or they act on the liver, causing gluconeogenesis, or they act at the peripheral tissues, thus causing lipolysis and decreasing the peripheral utilization of the glucose. Now let us take case 1. He is 39-year-old male with diabetes uncontrolled for the last 4 years, and he was treated on insulin glargine with metformin. HbA1c is 9.5%. The patient complains of weight gain, headache, sweating, snoring and joint pains. And recently when he was seen in emergency ward, the MRI brain was advised and which revealed small pituitary tumor, and he was recommended conservative follow-up with repeat MRI in 6 months' time. So the diagnosis in such case was that he was suffering from acromegaly, as insulin-like growth factors level were high as well as growth hormone level was high, and thus the diagnosis of acromegaly was made in this patient. Well, as far as the acromegaly is concerned, it is characterized by growth hormone excess. More than 95% of the cases, the source of growth hormone hypersecretion is pituitary somatotroph adenoma. Growth hormone mainly stimulates hepatic production of insulin-like growth factors, and which produces most of the effects, somatic effects, which are present in an acromegalic patient. So, from the pituitary adenoma, the growth hormones is released, it acts on the liver and causes the release of insulin-like growth factors which act on the various organs, and thus the somatic effects of acromegaly are produced. The growth hormone anterior pituitary adenomas account for 90% of the cases, and over diabetes requiring treatment occurs only in 10 to 15% patients of acromegaly. Now, even more frequent than glucose intolerance is insulin resistance or hyperinsulinemia in these patients, which requires the attention as well as management. The other endocrinopathic factor, the disease process, is Cushing syndrome. In Cushing syndrome, we all know that there is hypercortisolism due to autonomous hypersecretion of cortisol or ACTH from endocrine neoplasm. The incidence is rare, but diabetes is observed in about 30 to 65% of the patients. The cortisol induces visceral obesity, increased hepatic glucose output, as well as insulin resistance, which all together combined can result to over diabetes. 2 to 3% of the uncontrolled diabetics are diagnosed with Cushing syndrome when screened at random, and glucocorticoids mainly acts at all the levels, either at pancreatic beta cells causing decrease in the insulin secretions, on liver, skeletal muscles as well as peripheral tissues. The other is FEO. We all know that FEO are rare tumors of chromaffin cells that produce catecholamines. Diabetes is observed in about 25 to 75% of the patients. Catecholamine they decrease insulin secretions and increase hepatic glucose output. And several case reports of pheochromocytoma presenting as diabetic ketoacidosis have also been reported. The thyroid hormone, it increases the insulin degradation, and thus in hyperthyroid patients there is an enhanced secretion of biologically inactive insulin precursors. Pro-insulin levels is high and active insulin level is low, and that is why the peripheral utilization of glucose is decreased and there is a lipolysis and causing over diabetes. Thyroid hormones increased levels also cause increased intestinal absorption of glucose and increased hepatic glucose output, and there is increased lipolysis and increased gluconeogenesis leading to clinical diabetes. Well, drug-induced diabetes, as my previous speaker has already spoken in details, I will not go in detail, but actually the incidence of drug-induced diabetes is more frequent in clinical practice than actually anticipated. All groups of the drugs, whether corticosteroids, antipsychotics, thiazides, diuretics, cardiac drugs, statins, oral contraceptives and whatnot can lead to the development of clinical diabetes. The diabetogenic effect may be brought about by the effect on the islet secretions or on insulin action at hepatic or extrahepatic sites, or by variable combinations. In this case, once you see that the patient is on QTPine along with niacin, simvastatin, atenolol, hydrochlorothiazide for the management of his dyslipidemia as well as hypertension. About 6 months prior, his fasting blood sugar was 113 with HbA1c 6.1%. But you will realize that all the drugs can lead to the derangement of glycemic control, and then after 6 months his HbA1c went to around 7.9%. So the anti-infective agents like gefloxacin or antipsychotic like olanzapine or quetiapines, long list of cardiovascular drugs from beta blockers to niacin, and glucocorticoids, systemic or oral glucocorticoids, then oral contraceptives as well as immunosuppressant drugs. They all can lead to the deranged management of glycemia and thus can cause secondary diabetes. The drug-induced hyperglycemia mainly develops in those who have got first degree relative diabetes. There is a high risk race ethnicity. The patient with PCOS, prior gestational diabetes or hypertensive patients with low HDL and high TG levels, where there is impaired glucose tolerance and insulin resistance. These patients are more prone for the development of overdiabetes in drug-induced cases. Well, the last is the genetic syndromes. There is a long list again with the genetic syndromes which can cause secondary diabetes, whether mutant insulin syndromes, severe to extreme insulin resistance syndromes, or there are many genetic syndromes which can lead to the development of diabetes, like Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome or Turner syndromes, and lastly hereditary neuromuscular disorders. So my dear friends, I would like to end my talk by giving the key points about the secondary diabetes. One, that the main secondary causes of diabetes are, as I told you, the genetic defects of the beta cell function and insulin secretions, the disease of exocrine pancreas, endocrinopathies, or drug or other chemicals or infection which can cause the damage in the pancreatic beta cells. Secondly, the mechanism that causes secondary diabetes relates to the physiology and pathophysiology of the secretion of insulin and its action on the target tissues. Third, the goal and modalities of the treatment of secondary diabetes are similar to those for type 1 or type 2 form of the diabetes. And lastly, most cases of secondary diabetes require specialist management, often supported by multidisciplinary diabetes care team because of their uncommon and particular nature. Well, I would like to thank all of you for your patient hearing and would like to invite in Lucknow, where we are going to organize the next RSSDI 2015 annual conference from 30th October to 1st of November. You are all welcome to come over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.